Sorry, I'm so used to like playing a character that it's like hard for me to like be normal.
If you want to understand modern celebrity and influencer culture, you have to look back to Paris Hilton, the original famous for being famous icon of our era.
Paris Hilton is a new breed of celebrity, famous for being famous.
She became the human symbol of 2000s trends, like the embrace of consumerism and materialism leading up to the 2008 financial recession, the dominant rail-thin female body ideal, and the growing reality TV-inspired hunger for content about celebrities off-screen. Paris was widely hated as a scapegoat for these larger shifts which she reflected.
She's been branded the world's most overrated celebrity by the Guinness World of Records.
Meanwhile, as a kind of performance artist in a field that didn't exist yet, Paris crafted a self-mocking, ironic persona that was a cross between a dumb blonde or a vapid rich girl.
Is it true that when you're not on camera that your voice drops and you're much more serious?
Definitely. I think it's a character that I developed for the simple life.
But many people took Paris's brand act at face value.
Just created this brand and this persona and this character, and I've been stuck with her ever since.
She was also subject to a shocking level of misogynistic bullying by the 2000s media, making her an important entry on the list of famous women who deserve a big apology. In hindsight, Paris was a weird mix of puppet master, opportunist, and victim.
I've felt just so much pain for a long time, just feeling like a punchline to so many jokes for people.
Here's our take on why the world blamed Paris and how she helped usher in the surreal world of famesque, pseudo-event-driven omni-celebrity we're living in today.
You're like the patron saint of the selfie culture. Do you feel pride or guilt about that?
A little bit of both.
If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified about all our new videos. Creating your own videos can be grueling, tedious work. Sifting through footage can be so boring. Wondershare Filmora makes editing easier and faster so that everyone can share their voice with the world. Filmora's auto highlight tool helps select the hottest edits in your footage, and their audio normalization tool can make your video sound as professional as it looks. With its preset templates for effects, filters, and royalty-free music, you can make a polished video in as little as 10 minutes. Since you're watching our channel, chances are you're interested in creating videos of your own. So follow the link in the description to get your free trial today. At The Take, we often re-examine the crusty old myths that frame pop culture, and for too long, editing software has been hoarded by gatekeepers. Filmora is helping to democratize the video editing space, giving you the tools to shape your story. You don't need a film crew to follow you around to reshape the narrative. You just need Filmora. Thanks Filmora for sponsoring this video and helping us make more videos. While Paris is often credited with inventing Famous for Being Famous, the concept actually has a longer history in America.
Long before the Kardashians, she and her sisters Magda and Eva, who starred in Green Acres, were famous for being famous.
In the Roaring Twenties F. Scott Fitzgerald novel The Great Gatsby, Gatsby throws lavish parties and creates a cult celebrity status around his fortune, even though no one actually knows the real Gatsby.
Gatsby's real name was James Gatz. His parents were dirt poor farmers.
He cultivates this persona to woo his lost love Daisy, symbolizing the American expectation that you need to be rich and famous for anybody to care about you. In America's booming post-World War II economy, celebutante Zsa Zsa Gabor demonstrated what scholar Neil Gabler calls the Zsa Zsa factor, or people who have gained recognition for having done virtually nothing of significance.
Our first guest tonight is one of the all-time great talk show guests. Please welcome Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Gabor leveraged the attention she gained from her marriage to George Saunders to obtain movie roles, but it was her fame itself and her glamour, not her films, that defined her.
One of the world's most glamorous ladies, Miss Zsa Zsa Gabor. Here she is.
Neil Gabler writes that what turns a famous person into a celebrity is narrative. He defines a celebrity as human entertainment, or a person who, by the very process of living, provided entertainment for us. Gabor, who would have 9 husbands, embodies this to a T, also demonstrating how a key tool in increasing your fame is to date an established star. Being the sibling or child of a famous person works the same way, as we saw in Paris and her other celebutante sidekicks who descend from the rich and famous.
You're famous because your dad was famous,
right?
And you have now a friend who's rich and she's famous.
It's natural that Paris would follow in the footsteps of Zsa Zsa, who was the second wife of Conrad Hilton, aka Paris Hilton's great-grandfather. Both women flaunted their wealth and status, occasionally played into a vapid persona for entertainment value.
You're now, is this true? You're actually a princess?
Uh-huh.
Yeah?
And a duchess.
And epitomized the key element of famous for being famous, which author Daniel Boorstin defined as well-knownness.
She's known really for nothing, but she has everything.
Writing in the 60s, Boorstin critiqued all celebrity as hollow in this sense. Quote, "The celebrity is a person who is known for his well-knownness." In 2009, the Washington Post's Amy Argetsinger coined the term famesque to describe the characteristic of being more famous than one seemingly should be based on acting or music output alone. She wrote, "Sienna Miller is not famous. She is famesque." While Miller is an actress, Argetsinger argues that most will know her due to her romance with Jude Law rather than her movie roles. One of which happens to be in Factory Girl playing Edie Sedgwick, another iconic famesque celebutante from the 60s.
You play Edie Sedgwick, who was dubbed the It Girl.
There's something intangible and amazing about her.
In the 2000s, the anxiety and backlash around Paris came in part from growing awareness that fame and obvious accomplishments were more divorced than ever.
I don't know what your underlying talents are, and we haven't seen, any great display of your musical abilities.
Something many fiercely protested. Perhaps the deeper reason Paris's fame made people uncomfortable was that it exposed the extent to which celebrity was a manufactured, at times absurd-feeling commodity.
I don't get it. What does she do? She's super rich. But what does she do? She's totally spoiled and snobby. What does she do?
And while Paris may not have been the first example of famous for being famous, she was by far the biggest example of the phenomenon the world had ever seen.
It's a circus, for lack of a better term, anytime you went anywhere.
This was due to cultural factors that converged around her. The peak power of the paparazzi and tabloid machine met the dawn of reality TV, which maximized interest in the celebrities' behind-the-scenes life. Another key feature of the famesque celebrity which Boorstin highlighted is pseudo-events, which he describes as planned occurrences, usually for the purpose of being reported on or viewed with an ambiguous relationship to reality. Paris was a master of creating pseudo-events in tabloid and pop culture, playing pranks and doing vapid stunts like faking a plane crash to manufacture hollow entertainment.
Was she in on it?
Yes, she was. I told you so. Paris Hilton is the biggest faker out there.
Since then, the Kardashians and countless YouTubers and social media stars have run with pseudo-events to create a steady stream of content. According to Boorstin, the celebrity is the human pseudo-event.
Can you put this more shinier and cuter?
We have a request to make this shinier and cuter.
In many people's minds, Paris came to define this figure of the celebrity devoid of substance, and this was in part because of the specific persona she cultivated, the rich bitch.
Paris Hilton's brand is luxurious and rich and wealthy.
Paris designed the doggy mansion as a copy of her own home.
In Paris's reality TV show, The Simple Life, she put on an over-the-top ditzy shtick.
What is Walmart? It's like they sell wall stuff?
But the dumb blonde or rich bitch were calculated, artificial personas she actively cultivated to create a brand identity.
I'm not a dumb blonde, I'm just very good at pretending to be one.
Thereby enhancing her fame and earning potential.
First time I was really introduced to her, I saw a real-life Barbie, and that's what intrigued me. If Barbie breathed air, what would this brand actually be?
Paris astutely applied her brand to all aspects of her public life, from her trademark catchphrase,
"That's hot,"
to her wardrobe, which frequently featured her wearing juicy couture and carrying a designer bag with her chihuahua. The Sofia Coppola movie The Bling Ring, which Paris blessed with a cameo, humorously pointed out she was so rich she was robbed multiple times without even noticing.
How many times have you guys been up here?
This is like our 5th time.
And she never noticed?
I mean, come on, it's Paris Hilton.
Moreover, the frequent accusation that she was famous for being rich.
You have now a friend who's rich and she's famous, and so you all are famous for being rich.
Also wasn't really true. Paris was famous for making a career out of partying, for performing her wealth a certain way, for taking an older idea of the socialite and making it something modern, and for picking up on a deeper sea change in the climate of fame and the media.
The great-granddaughter of Hilton Empire founder Conrad Hilton could simply have sat back instead of devoting herself religiously to the cause of becoming the world's most celebrated socialite.
She created a famous for being famous formula, which included, for example, having the sidekick, someone who's playing the same type, but a slightly lesser star who won't outshine you.
Could jet-setter Paris Hilton and her best friend Lionel Richie's daughter Nicole last 30 days with no money?
The harsh misogyny of 2000s tabloid, media, and comedy culture spared no famous woman, but it had a special target on Paris Hilton's back.
I love you, Paris! Love you too.
There. Somebody you met in prison?
Paris was a sex symbol who established a style of behavior in her speech, wardrobe, and appearance that many young women emulated in her time.
Many people thank you for helping to start this trend of showing the midriff.
Her much parodied 2005 Carl's Jr. commercial incorporated her mix of playful irony and overt sexuality and her "that's hot" catchphrase, but perhaps most saliently, it captured the impossible 2000s beauty standards. Women were expected to be a size 0 while being able to chow down like one of the guys. Still, even the women who managed to attain that ideal were treated like pieces of meat. And because they performed the uninhibited sexuality that was expected of them, were assumed to have no inner value or brains.
Sorry if I'm a little spent. I did a whole lot of partying last night with a lot of different guys.
Paris gained attention for her sex appeal and her infamous sex tape. And she used her time's beauty standards and tabloid culture to mold her brand in a sort of under-the-radar girl boss enterprise. But she was ultimately hurt by those same forces.
This company wanted to make Paris Hilton sex dolls.
Paris's tense relationship with the media reflected a deeply misogynistic time where powerful men and women felt completely comfortable roasting Paris to her face.
How'd you like being in jail?
Pushing her to the point of tears, talking down to her, and treating her basically like an idiot.
I heard when the cops gave Paris the breathalyzer test, they told her to blow and she started sucking.
The total lack of sympathy and explicit ridicule directed at Paris seemed to assume that she deserved this backlash because she shamelessly chased celebrity by being famous for being famous. And they were condemning her in order to condemn the cultural trends she represented.
Did you ever hear from any of the girls you parodied in the music video for Stupid Girl?
Paris was upset with me. She said, I just want you to know that I get it. Like, I'm not dumb. I just play like I'm dumb. And I was like, that's kind of my point.
There are good reasons to dislike some aspects of what Paris's persona seemingly embodied, like being famous for being rich, playing dumb to seem sexy.
Purlockson River is 49 degrees, and Salisbury is 47. But this is boring.
And presenting a transactional view of the world. But it was as if people thought that by disparaging her, they demonstrated their own integrity and refusal to worship at the altar of empty materialism, or as if their insults could restore an older moral hierarchy of who deserved to be famous. In reality, she made people uncomfortable because she exposed what the public wanted from the rich and famous.
America has embraced Paris's brand.
What is it you do again?
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
Paris's greatest flaw as puppet master of her own story was actually not thinking big or radically enough. She created the template for a new type of celebrity and originated what would become today's highly lucrative and ubiquitous influencer culture. Yet in her early years, she still showed a lot of deference to the old Hollywood rules that a famous person had to be in at least some movies or music.
It's really interesting to be able to do acting and singing at the same time.
Meanwhile, the Kardashians, who famously got their start due to Kim being Paris's sidekick,
she
literally gave me a career.
Never tried at all to be actors or singers. Instead, they were forward-thinking entrepreneurs who saw opportunities that didn't yet exist.
At 19, like, you took something and turned it into this empire.
Paris failed to evolve to maintain the same relevance that the Kardashians did. Still, even if she's not quite Kim Kardashian, Paris has said her businesses have brought in billions of revenue, and she's been reported to have a net worth of up to $300 million.
Not only am I involved in making my own products, I'm also involved in some major tech deals.
Meanwhile, beneath Paris, Kim, and Kylie, there's an entire ecosystem of created celebrities on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
PewDiePie, congratulations on passing 100 million subscribers.
Behaviors that Paris was criticized for, such as performing a semi-outrageous persona to court attention or flaunting wealth, are now the norm.
Today, we are doing the ultimate dream house tour.
So what can we make of Paris Hilton's legacy and her impact on celebrity today? Let's start with some notable downsides to today's influencer industry that grew out of Paris's fame. 1. Chasing clicks. In today's culture, influencers become ever more outlandish to keep getting views to build their brand and earn money. Paris understood this need to be a little performatively ridiculous.
Thanks, bitch. Have a great day. This is fun.
And that's only escalated in the years since, as influencers like Logan Paul pull off increasingly shallow, ridiculous, and sometimes highly offensive stunts.
Logan Paul is facing the fallout after posting a video that showed the body of an apparent suicide victim.
2. Emphasizing material wealth. There's also the critique that Paris capitalized on her wealth to signify her importance to society. She helped establish an American fame culture that prioritizes attaining wealth as the ultimate goal, when it's neither an attainable goal for most people nor a great value system on which to base a culture. 3. Lack of substance. Influencers seeking attention through viral videos eventually took away eyeballs from others, including those thoughtful movies and cultural touchstones that used to give American culture meaning. Obviously, you can't blame YouTube for the death of medium-budget, high-quality hit films, but it's also striking that the 2021 Oscars ratings recorded fewer than a quarter of the viewers as watched this Mr. Beast video about selling houses for $1.
This house right here is for sale for just $1.
4. Blurring the lines between public and private life. By making her every move a pseudo-event, Paris set up the expectation that celebrities should live in a fishbowl, their whole lives on display and open to judgment from the public.
Did you lose a lot of weight while you were in prison?
It also trickled down to regular people sharing everything about themselves, an erosion of the value of privacy for us all. On the positive side, though, we've evolved from an old-school model of celebrity controlled by gatekeepers to a more open world where nobody has to give you permission to be famous. Influencers nowadays can push the envelope for good and challenge restrictive beauty standards in a way Paris could not.
If someone says you're not beautiful in your own skin, I'm here to tell you that you are.
Yes, she was ultimately a rich heiress who got richer, but Paris Hilton blew the fame game open and exposed its inner workings, making new kinds of direct-to-fan paths possible. Most fundamentally, she exposed just how silly and fake celebrity is. She cheapened the value of fame in our eyes, and that's good. Ironically, while the perception of famous for being famous was always that these people were lazy and lucky to get paid for doing nothing, being a modern influencer can be quite a lot of repetitive, unglamorous work. In recent years, Paris has carved out a career for herself as a top DJ, or as she's framed it, what she's always been. A professional partier.
We're live. What's up? I'm Paris here at Slivington Manor. Excited to be playing for Boo's Type Party tonight.
But while she clearly doesn't need to work another day in her life, stories about her also emphasize her long hours and her identity as something of a workhorse.
You are a workaholic, which we learn in the documentary.
And even if most in her field are a lot less wealthy, this offers a suggestive window into how being an influencer who wants to stay relevant can be a pretty constant grind.
If you're even get into this game of celebrity, you need to be seen everywhere. Out of sight, out of mind.
It's yet another iteration of hustle culture. So the true legacy of Paris Hilton was turning fame itself into a business like any other. Success for modern influencers comes from putting in the time, turning out steady, consistent work, and continuing to show up to the job.
1, 2, 3, that's hot.
This is Paris.
This is The Take on your favorite movies, shows, and culture.
Thank you so much for watching and for supporting us.
Please subscribe and never miss a take.